Nobody made fun of Katt Williams when she entered the courtroom. All eyes were on the man whose viral rants and hilarious quips had put the entertainment business on high alert when he found himself abruptly sworn in. Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey, T.D. Jakes, and Ricky Smiley were among the names that Katt had been mentioning for quite some time. His sanity was disregarded. However, the names in question began to pop up in court records related to the Diddy probe. All of the parties, non-disclosure agreements, hidden cameras, and careers purchased and sold under one man's empire were verified by Katt in court. He made no specific reference to Diddy either. A whole network of famous people who each did their bit to get famous was uncovered by him. Not a comedy special, but a cautionary tale. Why? Because Katt Williams made sure that everyone could see the receipts, not just those he pulled. His target audience, though? What he revealed might be too much for them to ever overcome. At first, no one in the courtroom understood it. Screeched reporters. There was anarchy on social media. Still, there he was, the suit-clad and serious Katt Williams, entering the courtroom not in his comedic, but in his capacity as a government witness. With a folder in one hand and a gaze that could penetrate concrete, there was no entourage and no fanfare. The courtroom fell into complete quietness as he took his seat and was sworn in. In his trademark laugh-inducing voice, he started, "Allow me to say this once, under oath and without any punchline. I warned y'all years ago and you laughed." He informed the court that what they were about to hear was nothing new for him. He had been expressing it for more than 10 years, but people paid him no mind due to the way he presented the truth. "People stop paying attention when you make them laugh," he explained. "But I wasn't simply making jokes, I was sneaking facts between the punchlines." Years ago, Katt saw a trend. The same set of celebrities would get invited to special parties, then disappear for a while, only to return with distribution contracts, movie agreements, or accolades. He then delivered the first bombshell. "You want to know the common thread? A brother who is at the bottom of the A-list one year would suddenly be starring in blockbusters 3 months after a certain party." They were all friends of Sean Diddy Combs. As Katt continued, the court leaned in, convinced that Diddy was more than a music entrepreneur. He was the guardian of a seedier side of Hollywood. "Music isn't the point anymore," he declared. His words were chilling. "I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because if I don't talk now, I'll be next." He went on to say, "It's about control, who you know, what you're willing to do, and what you'll keep quiet about." After that, everything was ready to go. Every person caught in this storm was about to feel the wind, and the court understood it wasn't going to be a standard witness testimony. Katt was unfazed when asked to list things. "A list of names, huh?" He finally spoke up. "Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, Ludacris, LeBron James, T.D. Jakes, Ashton Kutcher, Justin Bieber." That was his list. A tremor went through the room at the mention of each name. Not insignificant sidekicks or unnamed acquaintances, but rather some of the most prominent personalities in show business. Katt said that they had all been to Diddy-hosted or facilitated events, gatherings, or parties, and that they hadn't been as spectacular as everyone thought. He added that Diddy utilized the parties as a means to gain power, saying, "These parties weren't about celebration. They were about initiation." He went on to say that phones were confiscated, non-disclosure agreements were signed, and cameras were kept rolling, incognito. Are you seriously suggesting that the fact that these men all stand by the same side and defend the same individuals is a mere coincidence? No way. They are well aware that they are being observed, or even worse, recorded. Diddy allegedly used the data he maintained on everyone, photos, emails, and tapes, as insurance, according to Katt. He doesn't only amass blackmail, he creates it. He then pointed out the trends, such as actors getting last-minute film greenlights, comedians landing stadium tours without any build-up, and musicians appearing on radio without any promotion, but with immediate support from stations affiliated with Diddy. You honestly believe that having talent is enough to get you where you are? Oh, please. Without that machine, half of the folks I mentioned couldn't even sell out a high school gym. At the end of that section of his evidence, Katt stated, "I'm not saying everyone at those parties participated in what happened. I'm saying they all knew what was going on, and not one of them said a damn thing. Because of that, they are implicated." Among the courtroom audience, Tyler Perry's name was the one that caused the most obvious unease. It was something that Katt was well knowing. He looked deep into Diddy's eyes before turning to the jury and stating, "Let's speak about media." He started by explaining, "This ain't about gender or performance. This is about symbolism, ritual, power. Think a wig-wearing jokester with a penchant for religious jokes can magically launch $1 billion studio? No, that was a swap." Behind the scenes, Diddy's network allegedly helped Tyler Perry with his breakout performances, first studio agreements, and even film premieres. This was according to Katt. What Katt meant was that he wasn't only thrust into success, it was ushered into him. He asserted that bad boy employees were arranging press passes and scheduling celebrities for early showing of Medea's family reunion and Diary of a Mad Black Woman. That was deliberate. It wasn't haphazard. They offered him a way forward in return for his allegiance. Second twist. Tyler warned his male actors not to associate with me, Katt revealed. Wondering why? He didn't want the world to know who helped him rise because then people would ask why. Katt also mentioned several actors, Lamorne Morris, Rucker, Timberlake, Durant, who changed drastically after working with Perry. He claimed that Perry, once fully embraced by Hollywood, began distancing himself from anyone who could call out the truth. Behold their former state. Witness the subsequent events. Every year, a new media, every year a new wig, and every year a new check, Katt finally said. And the statement quickly went viral. But he has never once, not once, used his platform to discuss the reality behind the velvet ropes. He stopped before continuing. That's not entertainment. That's obedience. When the name Kevin Hart was mentioned, Katt Williams spoke up without hesitation. Looking at the jury, he remarked, "Let's talk about the golden boy." Katt argued that Kevin Hart's ascent to fame wasn't due only to his natural abilities. Think Kevin's meteoric rise from BET Comic View to multi-billion-dollar franchises was a fluke? In less than 5 years, you go from having your sitcom canceled to becoming the headliner at a stadium? No, that's the result of saying yes. When you accept the offer, that is the result. Katt went on to address the now famous line that went viral, his confession about passing up $50 million to protect his honor and virgin whole. He explained that it wasn't just a joke. That was me telling the world that Kevin said yes to something I wouldn't. Something real, something that doesn't get talked about in Hollywood unless it's in a whisper. Katt claims that Hart's career took off after he started working with producers connected to Diddy's investment crew. Take a look at the schedule. Movies, the arrangement with Netflix, collaborations. Any deal worth its salt will have a bad boy's signature on it. Katt also reported that Kevin had been seen at other private parties held by Diddy. One of these parties took place in Miami in 2013, and according to rumors, it featured a gold room set up just like the one Cassie Ventura had described in her testimony. When Katt revealed that Hart was a handler and not merely a partygoer, things started to heat up. His cheerful countenance served as a diversion. He did his part to put the new recruits at ease. That's why you never saw him on camera, even though he was there the whole time. According to Katt, deals disappeared, tours got cancelled when he turned down a comparable offer. On the other hand, Ride Along, Night School, and Jumanji are all receiving the green light for Kevin. His final statement was a sobering admission. They say Kevin Hart's funny, but that laugh came with a price, and I wasn't willing to pay it. He went on to claim that 3 consecutive franchise hits are impossible to achieve without approval from higher up. After that, Katt moved on to 2 additional individuals, Ricky Smiley and Steve Harvey, who he said were integral to Diddy's enterprise. He began by addressing Ricky. Ricky Smiley's meteoric rise from prank calls to movie and radio program headlines is something you've probably wondered about. Despite Ricky's success in the entertainment industry, Katt said that his big break came when he attended a string of parties in Atlanta that Puffy's Southern crew held. It wasn't the jokes, it was the attire. They weren't just handed invitations. They were a carefully curated list of potential helpers, quiet participants, and obedient bystanders. Finally, the shocking revelation: I stipulated in my contract that I would not collaborate with Ricky once more until he was attired in a dress. Why? Why? Because that's when his credibility really shines. Katt said that Ricky's first Sunday part, in which he wore a wig and a dress, was the very condition he set up to reveal the pattern. You want that bag? I wanted the public to see how they reward compliance. Knowing what to do, he really accomplished it. Then Steve Harvey showed up. According to Katt, who referred to him as the godfather of commercial obedience, Steve ascended the corporate ladder by manipulating both the media and the public's quiet. In reference to Lori Harvey's much-discussed connection with Diddy, Katt said he saw what Diddy was doing, and instead of saying anything, he brought his daughter to dinner with the man. Steve stood smiling next to Diddy, even though his daughter had dated Justin Combs before, she said. Which dad makes that one? One who is above their head. Steve, he said, had stolen ideas, including one that Katt had disseminated in the early 2000s for a TV presentation about Steve Harvey's show. I had that format in mind. Katt didn't hold back. Steve Harvey made his name hosting shows, writing books, and playing Patsy, but he never opened his mouth when it counted. They altered the name and city, and it was given to the person who said yes. That hush, that's pricey. When Katt announced the next name, TD, tensions rose in the courtroom. My name is Jakes. Let me explain how this works, he continued carefully, as if putting the last round into a chamber. Katt accused Diddy's public relations staff of using the church as a shield, not a sanctuary. Do you really believe that TD was salvation, the subject of Jake's sermons during the gospel concerts that Diddy sponsored? Jakes provided a holy filter for the seediest parts of show business, according to Katt, but it was all about cleaning up his image. In reality, they hosted gospel performances complete with velvet ropes, gold-plated communion tables, and VIP seats. Several gospel musicians, he said, were individually discouraged by Jakes from speaking out about their experiences at Bad Boy Entertainment-affiliated crossover concerts. The church's outreach would be hurt if they spoke out, so they were advised to remain silent. Where do the victims stand, though? Following this, the charge that garnered the most attention, T.D. Katt said that church contributions, million-dollar checks, and press-worthy charity events were all on the cover. And Jakes did more than pray over Diddy. He also helped clean up after him. And what if you were a religious leader who probed too deeply? You were demoted. You lost out on airtime and publication agreements. Katt went so far as to say that Jakes was aware of a celebrity issue involving one of Diddy's workers, but chose to keep quiet, instructing them to deal with it internally. His final statement was, "There's nothing wrong with God, but there's a whole lot wrong with the people pretending to speak for him." He continued, That's not what a pastor does. That's what a fixer does. Furthermore, you are not a prophet, but rather a prostitute in a pulpit if you use your faith as an excuse for your sins. In a level-headed manner, Katt Williams addressed both the jury and the prosecutors, asking, "You want to know why nobody says anything? It's because everyone is aware that they're being observed." He went on to say that for a long time, rumors circulated about Diddy's notorious parties, including the usage of candles, the presence of gilded rooms, and the fact that celebrities would arrive one way and exit another. The key, though, was not the events themselves, but rather their documentation. According to Katt's testimony, many sources informed him about the presence of high-tech monitoring systems installed in the residences and hotels that host Diddy's private parties. He emphasized that they were not doorbell cameras. "We're talking pinhole lenses and furniture ceiling tiles that weren't ceiling tiles, with encrypted backups sent to servers that didn't belong to Diddy. They belonged to his team." Katt claims that the objective wasn't only security, but leverage. The moment you step foot in one of those chambers and start fiddling around, Diddy will have you in his clutches. It makes no difference if you're famous, wealthy, straight, homosexual, infidelity, or anything else. You're either going to have to keep silent or face the consequences. He has the proof. He said that throughout the years, a number of famous people confided in him, sharing details about what they saw as well as rumored film. Katt declined to identify her brother, but said that she was terrified that her family would shun her if they revealed what they had on her. Katt then questioned the courtroom, "Why do you think they say that?" in reference to the now infamous comment from Ashton Kutcher. "What happens at a Diddy party stays at a Diddy party." Because they are privy to the events and footage. He linked these recordings to the abrupt disappearance, genre shift, or charitable rebranding of several celebrities who had previously hinted at darker themes. It was a system, he said. Blackmail was more than a theory. In addition to not being at random, the recordings were categorized, dated, and turned into a weapon. "This is about control. It's not just about freak-offs, tapes," he finally said after pausing. He created a digital safe, and it likely contains information on everyone who became too comfortable during those gatherings. With the audience in a state of disbelief, Katt moved on to his next point. Let's talk about the ones who did try to speak up and what happened to them. He started by mentioning Dave Chappelle, the comedian who infamously turned down $50 million. Supposedly, he fled to Africa after being accused of being insane. But if you paid close attention to his specials, he did have something to say. They treated him like way because he wouldn't play ball, which is why he stated, "The worst thing to call somebody is crazy. It's dismissive." Next, he mentioned Martin Lawrence, saying, "Do you remember when he was frantically fleeing through the streets while brandishing a gun and yelling, 'They're trying to kill me'?" Katt said that these weren't random breakdowns, but rather the outcome of attempting to escape the machine, and that what we saw wasn't a breakdown, but rather someone giving in under pressure and trying to warn us. When you've witnessed what they've witnessed, you don't just say no or quit. While discussing Kim Porter's and Diddy's parties, he brought up Ja Rule and others who were deemed unstable. "It's the same playbook," observed Katt. "Someone speaks out, you get called a liar, then they label you insane, and eventually you just vanish. Do you remember when they claimed I was high or losing it? I pointed to myself then. I couldn't help but get angry when I witnessed the inner workings of this system and attempted to caution others. But instead of taking my warnings seriously, they mocked me." 3 black SUVs, no plates, parked outside my house for weeks, and no one would touch the story. Katt continued, further explaining why so many celebs remained silent. He went on to claim that after calling out Diddy in earlier interviews, he was audited, blacklisted, and even physically stalked. They remain positioned in line since they have witnessed the consequences of speaking. They accept the offerings. Their smiles never fade. Hollywood doesn't destroy you with violence. It destroys you with silence, with labels, with exile. And I know, because they tried it with me. The courtroom was not only listening, but it was holding its breath as Katt stood for his concluding comments. After glancing at Diddy, he returned his gaze to the jury. You all assume that it's about scandals and parties, but that's not the case. Who is prepared to do what it takes to maintain their position of power? He said that the entertainment business had devolved into a hushed cauldron where patronage could be purchased with cash, intimidation, or film. Anytime a comedian or up-and-coming artist signs a deal or receives a Netflix special, you have to wonder, what did they agree to? For who is that green light actually intended? The executives, gatekeepers, handlers, and record labels were the ones he singled out. There's a whole system behind Diddy, and they're all complicit. He's not the only one. He's the puppet and the face. They wanted me to sign something too, offered me a check that would have changed my life, Katt said, as a last humiliating fact. I am not. All I had to do was refuse to speak about what I saw, and I said no. He then turned to face the court. Currently, I do not possess any sporting firearms. I care deeply about my loved ones, so please know that I am innocent if anything bad occurs to me after this. In startled quiet, the courtroom sat. Katt said more softly, I warned you through comedy, because if I said it straight, they would take me out. I made jokes about it. His voice quivered as he addressed the throng, warning those who believe they are safe that their day would come. He had spoken it plainly on record, and now the world knew. I see you, I say to the victims who are still scared. You didn't merely destroy lives. You built an empire on them, he said to Diddy as they locked eyes. As Katt descended from the platform, there was a noticeable absence of cameras and applause, the type of quiet that typically follows when the truth becomes apparent amidst all the chaos. However, today, that empire begins to crumble. Katt was making her way out of the courtroom when the judge yelled out, Mr. Is there anything more you would like to mention, Williams? Just so everyone knows. Katt's movements came to a halt. As if the burden of decades had been lifted but not lifted, he slowly turned around. His gaze shifted from Diddy to the reporters, photographers, and the stenographer's empty notebook. He said the word yes as he spoke. Just one more thing, she said. He inhaled deeply before pointing his finger at the crowd as a whole, saying, You're all waiting on the next headline, on who gets indicted next. There was no specific target. In reality, though, what you're truly seeking is approval. Approval to confess that you've known this was genuine throughout. Y'all were alert. You were skeptical that your favorite musician might be involved, even if you heard the allegations. You refused to accept the possibility that your beloved clergyman was involved, or that your beloved actor had sold his soul for a movie franchise. This ain't new, he continued. Nobody cares about me in this. The plot revolves around a generation that has grown up in a world where the truth is concealed and deceived at every turn. The reward is notoriety, but there is a cost behind the scenes. The price that some pay is physical death, while others pay the price of silence, or even their lives. Katt lowered his voice and approached the jury box, saying, I've seen too many good people disappear. Kim Porter, Andre Harrell, people who wanted to speak but never got the chance. And I'm here today because the opportunity has presented itself. I will speak because... He finally spoke up, saying, To everyone who thinks I'm just a comedian, I am, but I'm also a witness, and what I witnessed will not be forgotten. He then stepped back, nodded once at the judge, and left the courtroom, carrying something heavier than fanfare or applause: the truth. In addition to the truth, there is a warning. All the concealed things are now exposed.